Today, committee is holding a public hearing on the Elevators and Lift Act dealing with the regulation of installation, use, inspection of elevating device such as elevators, lifts, and amusement rides. This meeting is being live streamed in all assembly meeting channels, and I will begin by asking members to introduce themselves for the record, beginning on my left.
Good evening, Katrina Knockleby, MLA for Great Slave.
Kevin O'Reilly, Frame Lake.
And I believe we have one member joining us virtually.
Jane Whalen Armstrong, MLA for Murphy.
Thank you. It is now 6:10, and seeing that there are no members of the public here to provide submissions on the Elevators of Lift Act, I will go ask the minister to join us and get the department to provide their submissions, and we'll proceed with the clause-by-clause review of the bill. We'll take a brief intermission. Good evening, everyone. I'll resume this meeting of the Standing Committee on Economic and Development. The Minister has joined us. Just for the record, I am Ryland Johnson, and I'm chairing tonight's meeting, joined by MLA Knockleby, MLA O'Reilly, and MLA Whalen Armstrong is on the line with us. But with that, I will turn it over to you, Minister, to provide some opening remarks on the bill.
Oh, it goes on by itself. Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members. I welcome the opportunity to participate in committee's clause-by-clause review of Bill 52, Elevators and Lifts Act. With me today from the Department of Infrastructure are Delia Chesworth, who's the Assistant Deputy Minister for Programs and Services, Kevin Dunbar, who is Manager Chief Electrical Inspector, and Jacques Roberge, who's our Senior Legislative Advisor. I also have William Stevenson, who's our Legislative Counsel with the Department of Justice, for support. I would also like to recognize other staff present: Andy Teraposky, Director of Compliance and Licensing; Stephen Thomas, Elevator and Lifts Inspector; Alison Scott, Director of Policy, Planning and Communication; and Robert Collinson, my Ministerial Special Advisor. So Bill 52 was introduced in the Legislative Assembly and referred to committee for consideration during the May-June 2022 sitting. The Elevators and Lifts Act creates a statutory framework for the regulation of elevating devices that addresses all components of the complex systems in the Northwest Territories. This includes several key elements of public safety. Every other Canadian province and territory regulates elevators and lifts through either a dedicated act or a regulation. The Government of the Northwest Territories currently regulates elevating devices under the Electrical Protection Regulations of the Electrical Protection Act. Under the existing legislation, the GNWT has limited authority to regulate the non-electrical components of elevators, lifts, and amusement rides. So the proposed act fixed that gap. It addresses how these devices will be installed, maintained, and inspected. Also creates a simplified appeal process. Key to these features are effective registry, inspection, and enforcement systems. The public safety is a cornerstone of the proposed act, which will provide important legislative clarity for industry and government, and transparency to the public on the safe operation and maintenance of elevating device they use. Most NWT residents will not notice any changes on how the Act implements them and the regulations of the elevators and lifts. So, Mr. Chair, we can respond to any questions committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Are there any questions or general comments from committee? MLA O'Reilly?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So there is, in section 68 of the bill, there's a, if I can find it, provision for an annual report to be prepared. And I'm just trying to turn to the language. So, an annual report to be submitted to the minister about administration of this act during the 12-month period. That's a little vague about what is going to be contained in that report, and there's nothing in the section about whether the report would actually be public. You know, and I don't expect droves of people to be interested in this annual report, but if somebody had a safety concern or an interest, they might have some questions, whatever. But so what is the purpose of this report, and is there a commitment from the minister that it's going to be made public, and what would it contain? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MLA O'Reilly. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So under Section 68, the report will be made public, and it will also include information such as what is the committee has referenced in order to provide transparency and to support the broader objectives of public safety. So based on the regulation, making powers in the Act, the regulations to be made under the Elevators and Lifts Act will be prescribed both contents of reports, their frequency, and the requirement to be made public. Do you want to add anything further? Are you good? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Any follow-up, MLA O'Reilly?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, no, that's good. I hear the commitment, and I think there is authority in the legislation to prescribe regulations that'll set out that. Would committee have an opportunity to look at those regulations when they are being prepared? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Emily O'Reilly. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't see that being a problem. Thank you.
Yeah, we can consider whether those are regs that are a priority for us to review. Any follow-up, Emily O'Reilly?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and in that annual report, I presume there would be information about things like whether there had been a prosecution, fines, suspensions, basically compliance with the legislation as well. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Emily O'Reilly? Thank you, Emily O'Reilly. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that's correct.
Any further questions, Emily O'Reilly?
Thanks, I'm here. Tonight you're going to make good use of me, sorry. So the registry that's established here in the legislation, and I can't even find the section number now, but there's nothing in the legislation that requires or that I could see that indicates that the information or parts of the information are available to the public. Anybody who's got an interest in elevators and lifts. How does the minister anticipate this registry working, and is it truly a public registry? And what sort of information will it contain? And thanks.
Thank you, Emily O'Reilly. Minister?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Dunbar. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dunbar?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our registry is in place already and contains all of our information regarding qualified workers, permit applications, building locations. This will be atypical. That is all I have to say for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. Any follow-up, Emily O'Reilly?
Thanks. So I guess, well, that kind of spurs another question for me. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to find it in the legislation, but I think the legislation actually exempts this statutory framework from ATIP. So is that correct? Am I understanding this properly? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Emily O'Reilly. Minister?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the bill is designed to work alongside with the Access to Information Protection and Privacy Act. So the access to information process will continue to operate as usual and will not be impacted by the proposed act. And if I can, Mr. Chair, ask Allison or Jacques to speak a little bit more further on section 15 and perhaps more specifically paragraph 15 bracket 3. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will speak to both questions. There's a question on the accessibility of the public to registry information. So on top of doing ATIP requests, as Mr. Dunbar expressed, under section 15, I'm going to go first to sub 2. It is possible that the registrar may disclose information on a request to any person that pays the prescribed fee. So it runs parallel to ATIP. And now I'm moving into the current question about ATIP. As the minister said, the registry coexists with access to information. The section that the member is referring to, 15 sub 3, and 15 sub 4, they speak to if there is a conflict in a situation between this act for the purpose of just section 15, the registry, this act, the Elevators and Lifts Act, would prevail. But there's no inherent conflict. Both are set to coexist. There's the examples where there's an exception and where is 15 sub 3 sub B, which is financial information unless it's referred to in, and then there's a long clause at section 13. This, in short, is about fines. So what I would say the only difference between something in the registry and the way the registry works and ATIP is under ATIP, typically a fine would not be disclosed, but in the context of the registry, if you have a professional elevator repair person, the registry would be allowed to disclose just the amount of the fine and who got the fine in the context of their professional activity of maintaining elevators. It would be for contractors or certified workers. So it's a small exception that's allowed, but for the rest, it essentially runs parallel. The registry is much more quick and efficient. You just pay a small fee and you get from a database. So it's easier for the public to have a registry, but the ATIP is always there as a backdrop. So that would complete my answer, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any follow-up, Emily O'Reilly?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that explanation. I guess just twigs two things for me. What this prescribed fee is going to be to access the registry. I heard our witness indicate that it would be low. I guess I'd like to hear that from the minister myself. So why don't I start with that, and then I have one other question. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, can I just ask clarification from the member?
Emily O'Reilly?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So section 15(2) A says that the registrar shall disclose information in the registry on the request of any person and on payment of any prescribed fee. Our witness indicated earlier that this would be a low amount. So I'd like to hear from the minister if the department or the minister actually has a specific fee payment in mind now, and I guess I'll judge later about whether it's low or not, or why do we even have to have a fee? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Emily O'Reilly. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, we don't have one now, but the fee will be in the regulations. Thank you.
Emily O'Reilly?
All right, well, that doesn't give me a lot of comfort, but I guess committee will have an opportunity to look at this prescribed fee. I guess how is the department going to handle proactive disclosure? That's one of the requirements in ATIP, that people shouldn't have to resort to use access to information that departments should proactively disclose. Is this something that is this a registry that could be placed online so that people don't have to pay to look at it and get information out of it while protecting confidentiality and privacy? I'm just trying to figure out, in my view, we should always be defaulting to disclosing as much as we can, but that doesn't seem to be the practice. So how would proactive disclosure come into play with this particular registry? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Emily O'Reilly. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask Delia Chestworth to provide an answer for that. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our intent will be to work with our Department of Finance colleagues and make this an online system available through e-services.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Emily O'Reilly?
Oh, that's great. That's what I'd hoped to hear. So I think I may have, just check here. No, I think that's it. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll be looking forward to seeing that registry online in a year or two. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from committee? Hearing none, does committee agree to conduct a clause-by-clause review of Bill 52, the Elevators and Lift Act? We will defer the title of the bill until the end and begin with consideration of the clauses. There are 73 clauses in the bill. I'm going to group them where possible for convenience. Please turn to page 1 of the bill. Clauses 1 to 5. Does committee agree? Clauses 6 to 10. Does committee agree? Clauses 11 to 15. Does committee agree? Clauses 16 to 20. Does committee agree? Clauses 21 to 25. Does committee agree? Clauses 31 to 35. Does committee agree? Try to shorten it there, I won't. Clauses 36 to 40. Does committee agree? Clauses 41 to 45. Does committee agree? Clauses 46 to 50. Does committee agree? Clauses 51 to 55. Does committee agree? Clauses 56 to 60. Does committee agree? Clauses 61 to 65. Does committee agree? Clauses 66 to 70. Does committee agree? Clauses 71 to 73. Does committee agree? Thank you, committee. That completes our review. Does committee agree that Bill 52, Elevators and Lift Act, is now ready for consideration of committee of the whole? MLA Knockleby.
I move that Bill 52, Elevators and Lifts Act, be reported to the Assembly as ready for the consideration in Committee of the Whole.
Is in order. A motion is on the floor. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Bill 52, Elevators and Lift Act, will be reported to the Assembly as ready for consideration in Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Minister Archie and staff. This concludes our public portion of the meeting. Thank you, everyone.